Everyone knows about Homeguard in League of Legends, but you might not know the finer details about Homeguard that you can be utilizing to your advantage to win you more games. Most of the time, you're going to be getting Homeguard after a death or after a recall. Now, there are actually two different portions of Homeguard. The first part is going to grant you 80% movement speed ramping down to 40, that's before 14 minutes, or 150% movement speed ramping down to 65%, that's after 14 minutes. Now, that movement speed is going to be ramping down over 4 seconds once you leave the base. And so whether you're taking the most optimal path back to your lane, or you just stop the movement to throw out that vision ping to steal that 5 gold from your team, that 4 seconds is going to be ticking. And after that initial 4 seconds, you're only going to be getting 40% movement speed before 14 minutes or 65% movement speed after 14 minutes. But the second phase of Homeguard is only going to end after you reach an endpoint, entering combat, or entering the jungle. The endpoint is generally going to be at your first turret, or after 14 minutes is going to be around 2000 units before the minion wave. But how can we actually abuse this? The first part of Homeguard is going to decay after 4 seconds, but the second part of Homeguard is going to be there until you break one of the criteria that remove it. So as a support, if you're looking for a roam, or if you're playing a roaming top or mid laner like Ryze or Quinn, you can initially hover at the lane you want to go to, but if some variables have changed and you want to switch the lane that you want to roam to, you can actually use this area right outside your base and it's still not going to affect the second part of your Homeguard. Now, as you enter the jungle, you're going to see this little white indicator to where your second part of the Homeguard will end. There's also going to be a similar indicator when you reach the lane endpoint. CS on the ground here is going to utilize the area outside his base. He knows that Homeguard is not going to drop if he walks in there. And so he utilized the second part of Homeguard to go help his team and win out the skirmish for Half-Life Esports. But let's say as CS is walking towards the fight, Half-Life Esports do not need his help anymore, or T1 get the kills and just back away. CS can still walk back in the area that is before the lane endpoint or the jungle and maintain the second part of Homeguard to get back to lane swiftly. However, if you're a roaming champion and you sort of pass the area just right outside your base and you see something happening in another lane and you want to contribute, it might be better to walk back to the area outside your base and then walk through the lane, because when you walk through the jungle, then your second part of your Homeguard is just going to be removed. So let's say you solo killed your fellow laner, or they just got off a sneaky recall. If you know the details about how much movement speed Homeguard gives, you can calculate how quick they're going to be getting back to lane. Now for your solo lanes, you're generally going to take about 18 seconds before 14 minutes and then 15 seconds after 14 minutes to walk back to lane. For mid lane, it's going to be 15 and 12 seconds respectively. You can generally take 1 second off that timing if the enemy has movement speed abilities, and maybe about half to 1 second if the opponent has boots, but you don't actually know if the opponent has bought boots in base. Now that's roughly the duration when the enemy leaves the fountain until they get to the very point of their tier 1 turret. There's going to be champions like Talon, Bard, or Zeri that can scale terrain much faster than the average champion, and you're able to see your enemy death timer, so you can look at the death timer, look at the in-game clock, and then calculate when they will actually respawn. And from the time that they respawn, you're gonna guess roughly when they're gonna come back to the lane. And you're gonna be wanting to channel your recall about 8 seconds before that time, and you'll be completely safe. And if you're in the silence, if you're playing against like a roaming top laner like maybe Ryze or Quinn, or for your enemy support, you wanna be pinging your mid laner at around the timing that mid lane gets back to the lane, which is 15 seconds or 12 seconds or a little bit lesser based on the modifications. That's because if they roam straight to mid lane, the distance to mid lane is gonna be a lot lesser. So you might have the internal timing of when they're going to get back to your lane, but you're going to be able to impact the map in the mid lane a lot faster than that time you expect them to come back to your side lane. So now you know the two phases of Homeguard, how to utilize the second phase as much as possible, and how to track the potential locations of your opponent after a death. And if you want to have 1000 movement speed just like Faker in this clip, you want to teleport to a location that's before the endpoint after 14 minutes. This is in 1x speed by the way. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care everybody, bye bye.